Welcome to PhD with Women on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD positivity hack delivered will be by our guest, David Medansky. Episode 49 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto. And empathy is critical when you are breaking the chains of dieting. In today's episode, we are going to learn how to break the chains of dieting. Goal setting towards weight loss is setting people up for failure. Research from a 1959 clinical study of 100 people shows that 95% of people who diet will gain back the weight. As David Medansky, our PhD guest, says, when you eat for your health, your weight loss journey will take care of itself. In his book, Break the Chains of Dieting, David is defining 9 fundamental must-have principles for healthy weight loss. David Medansky is a non-practicing lawyer, an international best-selling author, and known as the overweight person's best friend. At the age of 61, David was told by his doctor that he had a 95% for a fatal heart attack, and that he did not believe that David could lose all that extra weight. During the next 4 months, David lost 50 pounds and learned how to reduce weight without going on a diet, counting calories, or exercising. Now, David feels great, has more energy, and improved his overall health. Join us as we discuss tips on how to obtain that healthier and happier body, and discuss David's 9 principles in his book that will help you reduce your risk for heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Let's discover how you too can have more energy, feel better, and improve your overall health. So, David, today apparently more than 150 million American adults are overweight. We can read that in your book. Loosely translated, that is more than 72% of the US adult population. Can you tell us what, apart from your personal story, inspired you to write that book?
Well, I want to help other people reduce weight without going on diets. Diets are designed to fail. They're temporary, extreme, hard to stick with, and a lot of them are potentially dangerous to your health. And that's why people keep losing the same 10 pounds over and over again. And if you do lose weight on a diet, within a year, 95% of people will regain it, some even more. And there's a lot of ways you can reduce weight without having to buy special products, special meals, or take any supplements, and without exercising. So that's why I wrote the book. And I did it in such a way that I use short stories and fables and analogies with life lessons that can be applied to eating healthier.
Well, I hope we're gonna have some life lessons and also life lesson quote at the end of the show. But before we go into deep down discussion of these 9 secrets David is going to share, I wanted to personally congratulate some of our amazing members, guests, and those who know them will know that we had some PhD with them. So congratulations to Kelly Hoey, founder of Build Your Dream Network, our previous PhD guest, on launching her Build Your Dream virtual water cooler last week. I would also like to congratulate and thank LinkedIn for Creators for reminding us about the importance of minorities in tech with their excellent initiative. This Black History Month is all about celebrating Black entrepreneurs, and our words of appreciation goes to Kina Kelly, the founder of If You Brand It. She was also a PhD guest, as She is a successful marketing and consulting firm owner. She's also taught us how to build your network of followers on TikTok. So, David, let's go back to the diet. Let's ask you a question that I was pondering. What is that? FAD, fat and desperate. What is that term?
Fad. It's fad diets. A lot of people do fad diets. The average person will do 126 diets during their lifetime. And that's what I came up with the acronym of FAD being fat and desperate.
Were you fat and desperate in your lifetime?
Sometimes I had done different diets and some were successful and some failed. And unfortunately, because I did not change my eating habits and lifestyle, once I lost the weight, I regained it all. So I figured out it's better to do a lifestyle change and eating habits than to go on a diet. And that's what I want to emphasize to people. What I tell people is if you want to lose weight, don't go on a diet. Change your diet and eating habits.
What kind of eating habits would you recommend to start with? Because I think everybody is very overwhelmed with the fact that if you start thinking about diet, it's really frustrating because you focus on the word diet and then apparently it's downhill from there.
Well, the first thing I'd recommend is to drink more water. And the reason I say that is 75% of the US population is chronically dehydrated, which means they don't drink enough water. And that's a direct correlation to being overweight. What happens is our bodies are 60 to 70% water. And sometimes when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. And if you think of it this way, you can survive without food for 40 days or more. However, most people are unable to survive more than 3 or 4 days without water. And a lot of people drink soda or diet soda or fruit juices and fruit beverages, and that's not healthy, especially the soda and diet soda. And I get a lot of pushback about the diet soda. They're like, well, diet soda is 0 calories. How does it cause weight gain? Well, diet sodas have what they call aspartame as a sweetener, and aspartame has 92 known side effects. One of those side effects is that it increases your body's cravings for sweetness. And the other thing is it prevents your body from absorbing vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And so what happens is your body goes into starvation mode and fights like crazy to keep the weight on because it's in survival mode. So that's the first thing people should do is start substituting their sodas and diet soda and coffee that has a lot of sugar or other ingredients in it. Black coffee is fine. Green tea is great with water, and just drink more water. And then usually most people say, well, how much water should I drink? And there's two answers. One is a minimum of 64 ounces per day or 1/2 of your total body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should drink a minimum of 100 ounces of water.
That's fabulous news to hear from you because I was always convinced that aspartame is going to help me with my cravings for sweetness. We have got beautiful comments from all those who had some diet experience. We have Janella, who was definitely keen on joining us tonight. Hello, Beata and David. Hope to learn something from this. I hope you will learn as well, Janella. Sheba is also chipping in. Love today's topic as someone who has lost over 100 and maintain weight loss for over 11 years. I know that lifestyle changes is the best way for long-term success in weight loss and maintenance. Shiba, I couldn't agree with you more. I am big follower of your Instagram stories, and I also love the fact that you share your daily struggles going to the gym. And I almost feel like losing a couple of pounds just by looking at you and looking and admiring your stamina. Shiba is also worth mentioning to LinkedIn for Creators #Black History Month, because we are celebrating Black entrepreneurs. So Shiba, your kudos to you, and I wish you all the success, not just in breaking the chains of dieting. So let's go to that stream of things we should avoid and also good habits we have to maintain. What would you say is your daily plan? Is there something that you do every day to acquire that healthy lifestyle?
I drink lots of water. That's the first thing I do. I avoid drinking sodas or diet sodas, fruit juices. A lot of people think orange juice is healthy. It's one of the worst things you can drink because it's pure sugar. It takes 4 to 8 medium oranges to make a glass of orange juice. So I usually ask people, would you eat 4 to 8 oranges at one time? And most people say no. Well, that's how much sugar you're putting in your body by drinking a glass of orange juice because they strip the fiber out of it. It's just sugar that's remaining. The other thing I do is I also try to do some physical activity, whether it's a little bit of walking or maybe some push ups or lifting light weights. And I don't spend a lot of time on it. Maybe when I walk, I spend maybe half an hour to an hour. When I do push ups, I do anywhere from 25 to 40 push ups a day, sometimes a little bit more. And then with the light weights, I just do a couple sets with 25-pound dumbbells. So it's little things you can do. It doesn't have to be a lot. Rebel Wilson lost a lot of weight. She said she was walking an hour a day, and that's what helped her with her weight loss. The biggest thing is to avoid processed food and manufactured foods with the artificial ingredients. And the other thing I would recommend to people is to be patient. A lot of people want the instant gratification. They want to lose the 16 to 30 pounds, a month that is guaranteed by the national brands. So I often tell people, look, you didn't put your weight on overnight. It's not going to come off all at once. Uh, would you like to weigh 24 to 48 pounds lighter by this time next year? And most people say, that'd be great. Well, think of it this way. If you lose 2, 3, or 4 pounds a month, not a week, a month, and most people can do that, and you do that on average for 12 consecutive months, by this time next year, you'll be 24 to 48 pounds lighter. So be patient and give your body a time to adjust and also give yourself time to adjust to new habits because on average it takes 66 days to create a new habit for most people.
Also, I think it's critical to check the contents of the food you're eating, because especially with processed food, as you mentioned, just simply looking at the juices, majority of juices which are transported all over the world are just extraction of juice. So then in order to make it more appealing to humans, they add a lot of sugar, a lot of water, and then we have a very processed, not natural product. So, would you recommend as well some investment in terms of, for example, a slow processor, food processor, or slow juicer, which is not going to extract all the fiber away from the juice itself?
Well, I don't use a juicer myself. I would rather eat a piece of fruit um, or eat the fresh vegetables. What I learned from uh, another author is Jack LaLanne was selling his juicer. And what he didn't tell people is he would use the leftover, fiber that was um, stripped from the juice, and he would use it for baking other goods and eat the fiber. And when he was asked, well, why don't you tell people that? His answer was because people don't want to do the extra work and I wouldn't sell as many juicers. So it comes down to the bottom line for profit for a lot of people. And Jack LaLanne's one of my heroes. And I admire him, very much and follow a lot of his teachings. So if you're going to have, fruit, that's the best way to do it is that way. If you have a juicer, that's great because a lot of people do like juicing. Um, just like you said, get a slow juicer or one that's not going to strip all the fiber away from you. And if you do, use the fiber afterwards and use it in baked goods.
Absolutely. Food waste is also an important part of it. So please make sure you produce as little food waste as possible. So, for example, carrot cake is such an easy product to make. I remember that I would use all the fiber, whether it was juicing from carrots or it was juicing with a mix of products. I would usually use all the fiber for a cake, which is delicious because it's very moist and it's healthy, as you mentioned. So, good habits are very important. What else do we have on our list, David?
Well, we've already talked about drinking water. We talked about avoiding processed and manufactured foods. We've hinted that you should eat organic foods whenever possible. If not, eat the whole foods, holistic foods, mostly plant based. I would avoid the imitation meats because they're loaded with chemicals. And the other thing that people don't do enough of is to get an adequate sleep. And the reason I say that is what they found in research, a person who's sleep deprived will, on average, consume an extra 500 calories the next day. And to lose 1 pound, you need to reduce your caloric intake by 500 calories per day for an entire week. So when we're sleep deprived, we're going the wrong direction. And that's when people start drinking the energy drinks, which is probably one of the worst things you can drink. So get a minimum of 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. That's very important. For one of the principles, it's good for your health and it's good to lose weight also.
Mm. So, it's very important to have good sleep. Would you recommend some of the apps that are helping either for sleeping patterns or for exercising?
Well, I don't use the apps myself. And what happens when people are sleeping, sometimes people have the TV in their bedroom or they have their cell phones, and that emits a little bit of electricity and also some light. So you want to keep the room as dark as possible and as cool as possible. Also, if you should turn the TV off about an hour before you go to bed to let your mind wind down. So that's what I would do. You don't really need a sleeping app to monitor your sleep. Uh, that's, you know, do what you can to make it as the room is more comfortable for sleeping as possible.
Absolutely, the importance of turning off the light, which is emitting light, I mean,
Right.
very bright light, which is not helping us fall asleep because it's basically like looking into the sun. So, very important also to have a yellow tint light, so it helps you fall asleep, like a kind of moon effect light is going to help you. But you mentioned also the fact that you have to avoid some of the processed food, some of the processed meat. How can you find that when you're, for example, living a small island like myself or Shiba, who is living in TCI? So, how do you do that?
Well, if you're not getting real meat, then just don't eat meat. There's other things, there's fish, there's chicken, poultry, um, eggs are great. Beans are a great source of protein. If you cook them properly, a slow cooker is a good way to cook beans. So again, it's where you're living in your environment, what's available. That's how your body will adjust. Eskimos, for example, they don't get fresh produce and vegetables and fruits because it's in Alaska, so they eat a lot of salmon and other things. And so you need to adjust your eating habits based on where you're located.
Beautiful. Definitely going together with whatever season you're in is also helpful. We have got questions from Olga Vasina and actually a comment. Uh, Olga is saying, help us poor Europeans here. Can we have those fluids in liters, please? Loving the show as always. Hi, Beata, and hi, David. Thank you, Olga. That's very, very apt. Thank you so much. I think us Europeans are struggling, especially in the cold winter days. By the way, where are you based, David? So we can imagine
I'm
what it's like for you.
I'm near Phoenix, Arizona, near the White Tank Mountains, so it's about 70 degrees and sunny outside today.
That's beautiful. Well, I guess it's also very picturesque for your daily walks. Let's go back to Olga. So, okay, 24, 48 pounds is converted circa around 11, 22 kilos, right? That's the question for your weight loss and
Um,
plans.
yeah, I'm not sure about the conversions to kilos. I know that 3 liters is about a gallon of water.
Mm, yeah. So in Poland or in Europe, we say that the healthy habit is to drink at least 2 liters of water. But I also heard that 10,000, no, 20,000 or 10,000 steps a day keeps doctors away. And I wonder whether it's a myth or you would confirm that, David.
Um, some people are successful with apps and tracking 10,000 steps a day, others aren't. It depends on how fast you're walking, how many steps you're doing at a time, where you're walking. So that's why I usually just recommend walking anywhere from a half an hour to an hour a day and not worrying about the steps. Just do a brisk walk at a comfortable pace and build up to it. When I started doing push-ups, I started with 5 push-ups a day and then built up. So I got to be doing 40 push-ups at one time. Um, so it's little things like that. Just start slow and build up gradually.
Mm. Fantastic. We have got a follow-up question, and we have got In Love and in Pain. Hello, In Love and in Pain. I hope you're not struggling too much with chain of dieting. Hello, David. Is sleeping too much also bad for your health?
Not
That's a good
necessarily.
question.
I don't, not necessarily. As long as it's good quality sleep, um, and it's not more than 12 hours a day. Anywhere between 8 and 12 hours is more than enough. 8 hours is ideal, though. Uh, if you're sleeping more than 12 hours a day, you should see a medical doctor and find out what's going on, because there may be some underlying issues that you're not aware of.
Yeah, it may not be healthy. Your body is probably craving for sleep more than food, so you may want to check with your doctor. Speaking of doctors, David, I noticed quite a lot of disclaimer on your book. Can you tell us why you were so cautious?
I'm a former lawyer, and so I want to make sure that I put enough disclaimers so people don't get upset with me. Also, people need to be responsible for their own health, and they need to see a medical professional before they start any weight loss journey. Um, Sometimes there may be an underlying issue that I'm not aware of, obviously, because I'm not a medical doctor, that they need to have corrected first. A lot of people have thyroid issues. A lot of women have hormone issues, especially after menopause. So that's why they need to see a health professional or medical doctor to get evaluated to see if there's something other than their eating habits or physical activity that's causing the weight issues.
Right. You also don't claim to be a dietist, right? You just share your own personal stories and your path to healthy habits. We talked about where you are, and Olga has got a follow-up question. Olga is saying, great place to live, David, but does being in Phoenix, Arizona, and the warm climate help you lose weight more than being in dark places and not so sunny climate?
No. And the reason I say that is I had to lose weight for 8 years and I procrastinated during those 8 years and I didn't do anything to lose weight, which is why my doctor got upset with me. And that's why he didn't think that I would lose the weight. It was when he told me I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack that the light bulb went off. And I decided I better do something because I didn't really want to die early. Um, so it doesn't matter where you live, it's your mental attitude. And you want to keep a positive mental attitude. When you're avoiding certain foods, you shouldn't look at it as you're sacrificing something or depriving yourself. You should focus on the foods that you enjoy that are healthy for you. And when you start focusing on that, you forget about the foods that you shouldn't eat or shouldn't indulge in. And it's okay to indulge every once in a while once you've lost the weight. Um, One of the stories in the book is about being a pilot of an airplane. And it goes to the fact that if you start from Los Angeles and go to New York or vice versa, and you're off 1 degree, you'll be off 150 miles from your course. And most planes today are on autopilot, and the autopilot is correcting between 90 and 95% of the time. So, what it is on your weight loss journey, no one's perfect, and we do the best we can. So, just keep correcting, and eventually you'll start getting on course, and the corrections will be smaller and smaller until you're doing everything that you need to do. So, that's my suggestion to people is, don't get frustrated. Don't beat yourself up. Keep a positive mind. Focus on the positives. And when you do that, good things happen as opposed to the negative. Because what you put out to the universe is what the universe will give back to you.
Well, Olga is really delving deeper into that question because she is convinced that the climate she's living in, here is her question. So, not discussing the procrastination per se, but in the heat, it is much easier to eat salad and fruit and be full. In the cold, dark nights of Ukraine or Poland, you need hot, healthy stuff just to generate heat. No, I can think of all the lovely pork chops and stuff that Polish cuisine is producing.
Well, I would agree that being in a climate that has a lot of sunlight is more beneficial to losing weight. The other thing is hot tea, green tea is very good if you don't want to drink water. When it's hot outside, it's easier to drink more water. So drink more green tea. If you put some honey in it, it's excellent. Black coffee with some ground cinnamon is excellent. And for hot meals, I do my best to have oatmeal at least 3 or 4 times a week. And I use the um, steel cut oats and rolled oats. And I throw in some chopped walnuts. And then after it's cooked, I throw in some ground chia and flax seeds and mix it up. And to sweeten it, I use cinnamon. Some people use honey, some use maple syrup. I prefer the cinnamon because it gives it a little bit extra flavor. And cinnamon is a natural metabolism booster. So if it's cold, a good soup, hearty soup is good. You can, use vegetables to make that. So there's a lot of things you can do to generate some hot meals to generate some heat.
Uh, that's good advice. I hope, Olga, you are going to have healthy soups. Like, for example, we have lots of soups in Poland that are very healthy, like cabbage soup or, a cucumber soup. There are lots of alternatives to eat very light, even in cold winter days. We have lots of comments. I hope all of these are going to break the chains of dieting with David tonight. And David's book is available for sale. David, if you could show us your book, best-selling book, Break the Chains of Dieting. We have question from Janella. Hello, David. Is there any type of food to avoid aside from chocolate or caffeine? I always have a sleep difficulty sometimes.
Well, dark chocolate is healthy as long as it has 72% cacao or more, and not too much other ingredients in it. As far as other foods to avoid, basically, I do my best to avoid all processed and manufactured foods. I look for simple ingredients. Tuna is very good. I like canned, tuna. You have to be careful because in the States here, a can of tuna will say packed in water on the front. However, when you read the ingredients, it'll say tuna, water, vegetable broth, sometimes sea salt. And what they can do is have 168 compounds in the vegetable broth, so you don't know what you're actually getting. So I look for the cans that the ingredients are just tuna and water and sometimes sea salt. But as far as foods to avoid, Deli meats you should avoid because they're processed. The cereals that are manufactured should be avoided. The things you should focus on are avocados are great, pears, apples, um, dates. Only two dates because they have a lot of carbohydrates and sugar. It's natural sugar, and there's difference between complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates. So avoid foods with simple carbohydrates. Avoid frozen meals that you can microwave. If you read the ingredients, sometimes there's a lot of sodium in there. There's other chemicals they put in there. So frozen vegetables are great. Frozen berries are great. I like frozen strawberries and raspberries and blueberries. I throw them in some plain Greek yogurt, and it makes a great dessert.
Hmm. Lots of info, David, and I'm sure there is also lots of apps or lots of websites devoted to good foods. One of the things you mentioned, cereals. It's actually, I remember speaking to a friend of mine who used to work for a big manufacturer, global manufacturer, and we were talking about a discussion they had in their headquarters when the European Union decided to do signs for just like red, yellow, and green signs on products. And apparently, it was voted a no by producers because basically all the cereals would have red because they've contained so many calories that actually they are lethal. So, would you tell us about what it's like in America? Because I know, for example, for a fact, my daughter is addicted to cinnamon little crispies, and she would always have milk with these cinnamons. And when you look at the contents, when you see all that sugar, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, in the States here, um, Canada, the European Union, and China have banned a lot of the ingredients they put in our foods here because they determine it's unhealthy. And what I tell people is just because the ingredient is legal doesn't mean it's safe for you to eat. And what happens is the food, you don't realize you're building up a lot of toxics and being poisoned because it's a gradual thing. So you're enjoying the food, and it may be 10, 15, 20 years later that you realize of the negative consequences and side effects uh, because it's compound over time. That's why in the States here, if you're over age 55, there's an 80% likelihood you're either a type 2 diabetic or pre diabetic. And if you're a pre diabetic, unless you change your lifestyle and eating habits, you'll become a type 2 diabetic within 7 years. And that's why we're having a lot more heart issues, a lot more cancers. It's because people are eating foods that are um, loaded with these, different chemicals that they use for ingredients, and it's for uh, shelf life and to make you addicted. Uh, I have to avoid Pringles potato chips because they're addicting to me. M&Ms are addicting to me. Uh, Candy bars. So I haven't touched any of that for over 5 years, and that's a choice I make. And so the way I look at it is I'm making a healthy decision rather than making a sacrifice. Again, changing your mindset. Most people don't look at food as fuel for your body. So why do
Mm.
you eat? Do you eat for entertainment? Do you eat because of stress, for comfort? Um, if you are, re-examine why you're eating, because you're eating so you're putting fuel into your body, and you want to make sure your body gets the best fuel for optimization of your performance. Also, when you start eating healthier, you'll have more mental clarity, more energy, you'll feel better, and then you want to be more physically active. You won't be so sluggish. So some of that's what you have to look at as the ingredients in products. And unfortunately, here in the States, a lot of things are legal that are banned in other countries.
One of the things I also would like to notice is the fact that, for example, people think that honey is good, but there is good honey and bad honey. The one that the source is undefined is definitely something to avoid. Also, the other thing is fruits, dried fruits. Please read the contents because so many times these dry foods are soaked in sugar, to make it more appealing, right?
Exactly, especially here, pineapples, dried pineapple slices. If you read the labels, say, sugar added. As far as honey, I avoid the processed honey, the ones that come out in a jar that's liquefied. I use raw honey, and it doesn't matter where the raw honey's from, because it's healthy honey. So the raw honey is what I use, and usually it'll be cloudy if it gets cool, and it's more of a solid than a liquid state. So yeah, the other thing I'd like to mention is between the states and European countries, our food portions have been supersized here without people realizing it. In the 1900s, the average size dinner plate was 9 inches in diameter, and today it's 12 inches. If you go to a restaurant here in the States, serving platters are 13 to 15 inches. So we're getting a lot more food than we need to eat. Yet in Europe, the dinner size plate is still 9 inches in diameter. So that's the big difference.
Absolutely. You go, you see that beautiful plate, and you wobble till you gobble. David, so let's go into good habits. But before we need to acknowledge, we have Mary asking a question. Hi, David. I'm just smiling while watching you because I'm so guilty with everything you're saying. From now on, I will always keep in mind that I'm not hungry, I'm just thirsty. So, how many glasses of water, and also, whether gas water is good for you, David?
Whether what type of water is good for you?
Carbonated or still water?
Um, I avoid carbonated water. That's just a preference. What I recommend, there's because people are always saying, what type of water should I drink? If you ask one expert, they'll say drink distilled water. If you ask another expert, they'll say drink spring water. If you ask a third expert, he'll say drink reverse osmosis water. So what I tell people is avoid tap water, especially here in the States, because all the states have water that's contaminated. There's certain levels that they allow. Um, it doesn't mean it's healthy. And so, uh, whatever your preference is, if you prefer distilled water or reverse osmosis water or spring water, that's great. And if you prefer, carbonated plain water, Perrier is very good. Um, that's fine. I drink a 16-ounce glass of water, and I go through anywhere from 6 to 8 of these a day, depending on what I'm doing, how much physical activity I'm doing, how hot it is outside. But I usually have about 64 ounces of water before noon, and then everything after that is, extra.
So, do you start your good habit by drinking a glass of water? Is that helpful at any point?
Oh yes, first thing in the morning. It's the first thing I do after I get up and brush my teeth. I have a glass of water. It's 16 ounces, and you want to drink water first thing in the morning because that hydrates you. And after I drink my water, then I have a cup of black coffee.
I love my coffee as well, David. Now, let's go into tablets. Is eating tablets or drinking teas that are supposedly going to help your diet, have it got any benefits at all?
Some supplements are good for you to take, and I take supplements. Some of them you're wasting your money. As far as weight loss, products, again, it's a temporary fix. Unless you're going to improve and change your eating habits and make it a new lifestyle, you'll regain the weight. Uh, Again, I use certain supplements. I prefer not to say what I take because I'm not attempting to promote them. But everybody's different. So check out the source. Make sure that it's, reputable and that
Mm,
it has good reviews for you.
mm. I can hear in the background your training buddy who is calling you to go for a walk. I hope he can stay and to wait a little bit because we still have got some story to share. So, David, um, What was the hardest part about losing weight for you?
Getting started, I,
Mm,
I would put off until Monday after, our vacation, after the holidays, after a special event, different things. I always look for an excuse not to start improving my eating habits. And then the other thing was going on a diet. And that's when I learned I had to not think of it as a diet, but a lifestyle change and changing my dietary intake, drinking more water, avoiding the sodas and diet soda. Again, what I've learned is the foods here are scientifically engineered to optimize our cravings for fat, salt, sugar, and texture. That's why when they say bet you can't eat just one potato chip, it's not a dare, it's a fact. Um,
mm.
Sugar is very addicting. And in the US, people are consuming more sugar than ever before. They're adding it to everything. The other thing is, people are getting heavier and heavier. And so someone will see someone who's larger than they are, and they think, well, I'm not as big as that person, so I'm okay. It's a new normal for seeing people being overweight. And the reason I say that is a friend of mine was going to his 50th high school reunion, and he was going through his yearbook with his kids, looking at pictures. And his kids pointed out, hey, Dad, there's no fat kids in your class. And I went through mine and I realized there was maybe one or two kids that were overweight, but nothing like we see today with kids being, overweight and significantly overweight. And it's because what parents are feeding them. It's more convenient to go through a fast food drive-through. It's more convenient to pick up a bucket of fried chicken, order a pizza, or get a frozen meal and throw it in the microwave. So we're not taking time to buy the whole foods, the fresh ingredients, and preparing a meal. The other thing is we're doing a lot of what I call mindless eating because we're eating at our desk at work, watching TV, and before we know it, the sandwich is gone, the bag of pretzels or cookies or chips is gone, and it's like, well, where did it go? Um, so what I do is I'll eat raw nuts and then I count them out, you know, anywhere from 8 to 12 nuts at a time, and I make it a game of how slow I can eat it. And the reason I say that is a lot of people will take a handful of nuts, two or three of them, and each handful is 100 calories or more. We all eat fast. It's like, well, where did it go? So we need to slow down our eating habits. I
Mm.
used to be a very fast eater, and I've learned to slow my eating habits quite a bit.
So, slow eating means chewing slowly or mindfully. What would you define as a slow eating?
Uh, Focusing on the food, put your fork or spoon down between bites, not watching TV while you're eating, not being at your computer, working while you're eating, not being distracted, not if you go through a drive-through, not driving while you're eating, just sit and enjoy your food. Mark David wrote a book called The Slow Down Diet. And what he recommends is if you take 5 minutes for breakfast, give yourself 10. And a minimum, give yourself 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for dinner. And that way you're putting time aside to enjoy the meal. And Dan Buettner talks about the blue zones, and those are areas in the world, 5 of them, where people have good health and longevity. And one of the lifestyle factors that they incorporate is sharing meals with other people so they don't eat alone. So a lot of times, it's good to eat a family meal together, um, or enjoy the company of other people, but just not gulp the food down. So I used to, eat very, very fast. And I've learned just to, you know, put my sandwich down between bites or, put the fork down between bites and just, enjoy the food.
It's quite tricky during pandemic. People were in lockdown and having a company was difficult. Is there any secret sauce how you can have a meal while being in lockdown?
Oh, if you're by yourself, maybe get on a Zoom meeting with somebody or FaceTime with them while you're eating your meal together at the same time. That's the only suggestion I can come with. I've been, very fortunate. You know, my wife is here, so we're able to enjoy our meals together, and we're not on lockdown as much as other places.
Indeed, your wife is mentioned in your book because it is dedicated to my wife Deborah, who is my angel and who has the patience to support me and my endeavors throughout the years. Without her, this book might never have been written. Tell me why, without her, this book never have been written.
Because she's very supportive, very encouraging. Um, she brings in most of the money for the families, so she's able to support uh, and give me the free time to write the books and do the research for it. She's very, as I said, supportive and encouraging, very patient. She is an angel for me. My wife is very thin. She's size 2. She looks great. So I'm blessed and very grateful for that. Uh, we do have different eating habits. She gets frustrated with me because I don't like to eat some of the things that she eats. And I just tell her, well, if you're going to enjoy it, you eat what you want. I'm not going to judge. Because what I learned as a divorce lawyer is healthy or a happy wife is a happy life. So, she doesn't follow my eating habits. And she looks at me and says, you're going to live to 100 or more if you keep eating that way. So, well, that's the idea. That's the goal. I'll be 67 in April, and this June I'm hiking Kilimanjaro. So I want to be able to enjoy doing physical things like that.
Wow, is that a real thing? You're really planning to visit Kilimanjaro?
Oh yes, I have my airfare is already booked, and my trip is paid for, and I'll be going with the um, Follow Alice is the tour group I'll be with, and I leave June 4th and I get back June 18th, and super excited about it. Bought all the equipment, so yes, it's something I am actually going to be doing.
Well, fingers crossed for that, David. Size 2, it's quite remarkable. Has she ever been on chains of dieting?
No, she did lose 20 pounds. She's a cancer survivor. And so during her chemotherapy, she lost 20 pounds and she's kept it off. She does her little exercises every morning. She eats um, small portions, she eats slow. She doesn't drink as much water as she should, but she avoids the sodas and diet sodas. She does have a glass of wine, a half a glass every night because it relaxes her. And glass of wine in moderation is good, especially in Europe. People drink wine there. It's the hard
Mm.
alcohol people should avoid.
Absolutely. I'm drinking my green tea and celebrating a good, healthy diet with David Medansky. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming close to the end of our show. David, so let's face it, we all been there. We all wanted to start January the 1st. We are mid February. What do we do now?
Well, if you started your new lifestyle change, keep going. If you started and stop, start again. Most people think that they need to go to the gym and do a lot of physical exercise and work out. That's a myth. What happens is people will overestimate how many calories they consume or burn off and underestimate how many calories they consume, so they eat more. The other thing is fat and muscle weigh the exact same. Muscle, 5 pounds is 5 pounds. However, muscle is more dense and takes up less room than fat. So what happens is people will go to the gym and exercise for 2 or 3 weeks, but the scale won't move. And they're wondering, well, what's going on? I'm doing all this, exercise. I'm not losing weight. The problem is they're losing inches. And I had a client that went through that. He for 3 weeks he was doing everything and he hadn't lost any weight. And I said, "Are you exercising or doing more physical activity?" He says, "Yes, I'm walking 5 miles a day and riding my bike." I said, "Well, how do your clothes fit?" He said, "Well, they're loose and people are asking me if I'm losing weight." He says, "I'm not. The scale hasn't moved." I said, "Don't go by the scale. Go by how your clothes fit, how you feel, how much energy you have." So that's where people get frustrated because the scale doesn't move. So don't go by the scale all the time. And again, you don't need to exercise. I would say about 90% of what your weight issues are based on what you put in your mouth. And I lost my weight without exercising. I lost by just changing my eating habits, drinking more water, eating slower, eating smaller portions, and focusing on what I was eating and eating healthier foods instead of the junk food or the fast foods or um, the frozen foods.
So, David, is there a kind of ratio? How much of mind and how much of exercise and how much of food you need to have, or does it vary to you?
It varies. I would say reducing weight is probably 90 to 95% mental. It's what you're willing to avoid eating and what you are willing to eat. It's different for everybody. And the other thing is, when people go on a diet and reduce their caloric intake, if you are not giving your body adequate nutrition, your body goes into what they call starvation mode. It retains weight, and then people actually gain weight. And you're like, well, how am I gaining weight when I'm eating less calories? Again, your body is designed to survive. And if you don't give it the right nutrients and right fuel, it will fight to keep the fat on. So a good rule of thumb is for most people, for most females, 1,250 calories a day is adequate. For men, it's about 1,750 calories a day, unless you're doing a lot of physical activities. If you're below 1,000 calories a day, it's being detrimental to your body and you need to increase it. And again, make sure it's the right source of calories, the healthier type.
Right. So it's very much majority of information is ingrained in our mind. Would you say also, because here is an example, I remember attending a session and my friend was actually laughing out loud because we went to this mindfulness session and we were trying to relax our bodies, and the woman who was presenting us with, relaxation methods started by saying, nice things, and then she said, forget about stress. And the moment I heard the word stress, I remembered all the stress that I had. Would
Well,
you say it happens as well when you hear the word diet?
oh, absolutely. Diet is a four-letter word. It has a negative connotation. Again, it's temporary. What people have to think about a diet is a sprint. A sprint has a finish line, and when you reach it, you're done. Same thing with the diet. You go on a diet, you reach your weight loss goal, and then what happens? You revert back to your old eating habits and you regain the weight. If you think of a lifestyle as running a marathon and you just keep going and going and there's no finish line, that's the difference. So I like to think of things as dietary eating habits as opposed to diet, and also lifestyle. The
Hmm.
other thing is sometimes we eat a certain way or certain foods without realizing it. And in the book, I talk about the pot roast story, and people may have heard of it. And briefly, what it is, a lady's hosting a dinner party and she makes a pot roast for her friends. And one of the guests says she really enjoyed the pot roast and asks for the recipe. So the host graciously gives it to her, and the guest looks at it and says, why do you cut the ends of the pot roast off before you cook it? And the host says, I don't know. That's how my mom taught me. So the host calls her mom and says, Mom, why do we cut the ends of the pot roast off before we cook it? And the mom says, I don't know. That's how your grandmother taught me. Call your grandmother. She calls her grandmother and asks her grandmother, why do you cut the ends of the pot roast off when you cook it or before you cook it? And the grandmother thought for a while. She says, oh, because when I was first married, the pot I had was too small. So I had to cut the ends of the pot roast off to make it fit. So sometimes we do things without realizing because that's how our parents or grandparents taught us. Or maybe we learn from a friend or colleague because we watched them eat a certain way or eat certain things and we thought, oh, well, that must be good. So start questioning things a little bit and ask yourself why you're eating this or why you like a certain thing, and delve into it more and do some, analysis for your own sake.
Absolutely. And whenever you're craving for something sweet or something not so healthy, please replace it with something healthy. David, what would you say is very good to start your diet with when you failed over and over?
I would say start again. get positive affirmations. I put a lot of positive affirmations and declarations in the book. They're online. People can, Google them and download them. Not specifically mine, but other people's. Um, Several authors have written books about, positive affirmations to do. Start slow. There's the 9 principles. Just start incorporating one principle at a time, and when you master it, move on to the next one. Be patient with yourself. The main thing is to be persistent and keep going, and don't beat yourself up if you have a relapse or indulge in something you shouldn't. Just get back on track and start over again. Just keep, a positive mental attitude.
Absolutely, that's the positivity hack delivered by David Medansky today. What would you say is positive affirmation that worked for you, David?
Oh, a couple of them are, um, I'm eating food that is healthy for my body. I'm looking, forward to enjoying the apple, uh, or instead of, craving a candy bar. Um, just little things like that. And one of the best quotes I heard, if I can talk about that now, is from Heather Morgan, who said, "Every time you eat or drink something, you're either feeding disease or fighting it." And that made a big impact on me. So I remind myself every day when I eat something, am I feeding disease or am I fighting it?
Is that your life lesson quote, David?
It is.
Oh, fantastic. So, when did you hear that first? What was the story behind that quote?
I read it online somewhere when I was researching for my first book. I came across different quotes and affirmations. I was looking for positive things to put into the book, and so that was one of the ones that came up. And I was real. It made a big impact on me.
Well, we can definitely see it, and here is a great face of David Medansky, ladies and gentlemen. Right, we are coming to another question. What advice would you give to females to help their career or start an entrepreneurial journey or start a good diet habit?
Oh, for female entrepreneurs or any entrepreneur, what I would do is, if you're looking to get into a business, is first work for someone in that business, because you may think that's your passion, and then when you're working it, you may find out that's not something you really want to do. That's one advice. As far as eating healthier, I would start reading books by William Duffy. Sugar Blues was written in the 1970s. Any of the books by Paul and Patricia Bragg. Jack LaLanne's book is very good. Books by Richard Simmons. There's a lot of books that are from the 70s and 80s. And the reason I'm mentioning those books is some of the current books I've read today have misleading or inaccurate information. A lot of them are promoting their products or services, and they lead you to believe that you have to buy their product or service to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to fail. And that's not true. A lot of people look at the 9 principles and say, I know that. And what I tell people is, yeah, we all know what to do. We just don't do it. So start doing what you know.
Small steps lead to big accomplishments. Is there a number one book you can sit and think, oh, I wish I read it before I started my entrepreneurial journey or my book?
Uh, there are 2 books that I highly recommend. The first one is The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. That changed my life completely. It made a big impact. So that's a great book. The other one is Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Um,
Hmm.
Great business book. And of course, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a great book. Those 3 books I highly recommend, because it has a lot of lessons, not only for business, but for overall health and well being too.
Absolutely. Napoleon Hill was mentioned with Sheba Wilson just a couple of episodes ago. And it's time for our favorite question. Imagine the pandemic and the travel restrictions are over, and you can have breakfast with any person in the world, anywhere in the world. where would you go to and who would you take with you?
Oh, I would love to have breakfast with Darren Hardy, and I would either go to his house in San Diego or in Florida, depending on where he lives. I'd listened to Darren daily for the last 5 years, every Monday through Friday. I've missed a few, but for the most part, I love the lessons that he teaches. I've taken a lot of Darren's courses, and I just think he wrote the Compound Effect, and I just think he's got a lot of wealth and wisdom. He's interviewed many successful entrepreneurs and business people. He was the editor of Success Magazine, and one of his mentors was Kyle Wilson and also Jim Rome. And he has a lot of great insight. So I would love to sit and be able to talk to Darren about things in general.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. Thank you, all of our great supporters tonight. Shiba Mankoff Wilson, Janela Lego, Olga Vasina in Love and in Pain, and Mary were supporting us tonight. Let's go into some of affirmations or quotes that Racy, our production team member, prepared for us. Whatever your problem is, the answer is not in the fridge. That's Karen Salmanson. Dieting is the only game where you win when you lose. Karl Lagerfeld. It is easier to change a man's religion than to change his diet. That's Margaret Mead. As always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little bit harder. Next week, we are going to look into what makes a good product manager with our guest Alison Falk. David, it's been a pleasure to have you tonight. Don't leave us yet. We're going to talk with production team who are today Marianne Madera, Renz, and we have also Armenia in the team. Thank you very much. Great team effort. I hope whatever your effort, including dieting, is going to be very successful. Again, start small, lead yourself to big accomplishments, and if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou says. Today is your day to hack the future. Hack the positivity and fridge you want.